Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to week 26 of the mini paint challenge. Happy New Year. It's good to be back. We just moved into our new place just a little over a month ago now. And I'm excited to be back doing the live streams this year. We're going to be doing them now every the second Sunday of every month. So make sure you're subscribed here so then you get notified when I go live. But I'll be posting the reference photos on my website. So if you sign up for my email list, then I can send out the reference photos to everyone. I'm going to start doing that this year. And then I've also got them downloadable on my website if you just go to the mini paint challenge. So welcome. If you're new here, you can join along if you'd like, or you can just hang out and watch me paint and maybe learn something. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the chat if you're here live, or you can just leave them in the comments and I will get back to the replay of this and hopefully answer your questions. But if you do join in, make sure you tag me on social media at Josol Art. I'm on a bunch of different platforms. That's my handle on all the platforms. And then use the hashtag mini paint challenge, and then I can show your art a little bit of love. So we're gonna get right into it today. I'm gonna move to the next paint scene here. Okay, so I've got my little palette set up. Today we are going to be painting this little star here. I actually have it over here. This little star. I got it at Universal Studios last year in California, and I'm so excited to paint. I've been wanting to paint it, and we've just been in the middle of a move, so it's been a little bit chaotic trying to get everything moved and ready. We sold a house in the process, and then we bought a condo in the process, so we've downsized to a condo now, which is actually really nice. There's a lot less to clean when you have a condo. So I'm really excited for this new change and being able to focus more of my attention on art, which will be really nice. So we're going to start out with a basic palette, my typical palette. So I thought I would not set it up until the live stream so you could see exactly what colors I'm using. So these are my favorite colors to use. So we've got, the first one here is alizarin crimson, and then we've got cadmium red light, and then cadmium yellow. We've got sap green, cerulean blue hue, and then I've also got ultramarine blue. So these are kind of the basics I normally use. Sometimes I'll add like a quinacridone magenta in there as well. So maybe we'll put that on the palette as well today. So I've got those ones. Yeah, I think that's going to be our palette today. I try to keep it really simple. And then for whites, I use a warm white, and then titanium white is normally the most common, but this kind of desaturates them a little because it has a bit of kind of like a yellow in it, I would say. What is it got? Yeah, and it's an opaque pigment, so really good as a white. So I've got those two as well. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yes, leave your questions in the chat if you have any as I'm going through this, because I know I can be a little fast sometimes. Okay, so I like to line up my colors in rainbow, which makes sense. It just, they're all kind of together here. So I'm going to line them up all along the top here. So I'll get that out of the way. And then right here, I've just got a little bit of linseed oil because I'm using oil paints, but if you're using acrylics, that would be water. So we've got, I've almost got to get more titanium white. Look at that. My giant paint tube. I have another one in the drawer, but I don't need to take it out yet. I kind of just keep my base colors right on my easel here, and so like all the colors are lined up. I haven't actually used I also have a solvent-free gel that I've used too, but I haven't used. I normally just use linseed oil now. I feel like I've very much simplified my palette now that I've been painting for quite a while. I feel like over time you just gravitate to certain colors that are your favorite, and then you don't really use anything else. So this one was the warm white. So we got titanium, warm white, and then we'll go into the colors now. I like to start with quinacridone magenta, and then just go, like I said, in rainbow order as I'm setting it up. And then that just makes it easier to find the colors, because you're like, okay, I'm kind of looking for a pink pigment or a red pigment, or over there closer to the blues. Hello, yes, I'm back again. I know, I'm so excited to be back. We're in our new place. You can kind of see we got some stuff set up. We got a new cat tree back there, so you'll probably see the cats come in and out. My husband's just feeding them so they don't cause too much chaos in the background, but we're pretty much settled in, I would say now. It's been about a month now since we moved in, and I'm like, what a better way to start the new year than on live stream with everyone. So I'm going to be doing these monthly now, so then I can focus some attention on, I'll probably still do some like shorter live streams at some point, but I want to get some like more long form videos out for everyone, because I've been getting more requests for long form videos and kind of like little shorter tutorials. So I'm going to try to focus a little bit on that this year. So that was alizarin crimson and cadmium red light. And then this is cadmium lemon, or you could use cadmium yellow light. Those two are kind of interchangeable. I have that as well. This one's just full, and I'm like, I should use some of that. And then the next one, not necessary this next one, because technically you can mix sap green with the colors that we have already, but it's nice to have like one pre-mixed color, and I really like sap green. Sap green is one of the ones that Bob Ross would always use. Okay, put that there. And then cerulean blue hue, which is like cyan. If we're going on a CMYK palette, I like to have a bit of both palettes, both color palettes here. And then the last one here is ultramarine blue. And then we've got a nice little palette to start from. And this is like our darker kind of like deep ocean blue a lot of the time. So you might also be wondering why I don't have black on the palette. I don't actually use black in my oil painting. Oh, my voice. I don't actually use black in my oil painting. Instead, I use a combination of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, and it makes this really nice deep purple. And then you don't need black, and then your shadows are purple, because a lot of the time shadows aren't actually black, and I find if you add black to things, it just ends up getting muddy, especially with oil paints, because they don't dry very quickly and the colors kind of blend together as you're doing it. So let me grab some water. I made sure to pour myself some electrolytes this morning, so then my voice doesn't get too tired. It's the morning here, so we'll see how this early morning. Normally I'd start at like 10 a.m., but I'm like, you know what? Let's do these live streams at 8 a.m. this year and switch up the day. Because I had some requests for weekend streams, so hopefully more people can join on the weekends. Okay. So right now I have on this screen, I've blown up the reference photo. Like I said at the start, you can go to my website and go to the mini paint challenge tab and go down to the reference photos, and you can download it so you can blow it up a little bigger, because it's nice to have a bigger reference photo when you're working on color mixing. So I've got it blown up right now. This little reference photo here, got my arrow back over here so I can point at the different colors we're mixing. I'm thinking we'll go ahead and mix some of these yellows first. I would say the thing a lot of people struggle with is the shadows on yellow if you don't have black. So I'm going to show you guys how I mix the shadows when you don't use black, because a lot of people would gravitate towards using black in shadows. But we're going to make them a little bit more bright and fun. So there we go. I'm just going to open up the linseed oil. And I have not painted in a few months now. It's crazy. I'll put that over there. Okay, so the yellow, we're gonna start out with the lemon yellow. I'll just put this in the middle here. Now what I like to do is I will pick the color. So we're gonna go with this nice bright yellow. It'll be close or similar to lemon yellow. I know they'll look a little bit different on screen, but trust your colors in person as you're looking at it. And then what I do is I just hold up my first primary color straight to the image, and then I see if I need to adjust the color at all. Now this yellow is actually a little bit darker, and it's almost on, I would say, a little bit of the purpley green side. So that main yellow actually isn't like super bright, and I'm gonna be adding the complementary color, which is purple, yellow, and purple. You can pull up, I like to use paint.net for it, and then it comes with like a little color wheel, and you can look right across and be like, okay, it's like a purplish blue would be the complementary color, which is right across on the color wheel of that color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add purple to it, which would be a little bit of the ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson. I might have even went a little too much there, but we'll see. And what we're trying to do is we're breaking down the colors of the object into planes of color. So there's one area that's kind of a certain color, and then as you get into the shadows, there's like other colors, and you can break it down into little planes. So like this color, the local color of this object would be yellow, is what you would say, but we want to look more at the perceived colors, which is the little intricacies in those different planes of the object. So we're gonna check that out. Actually do want it a little bit brighter. Just add a little bit more of that lemon yellow. So close to what we want. This one's actually quite close to this shadow color right now, so I might keep it because it's a good transition color. We're going to create transitions between the shadows and these more saturated colors here in the middle. So I'm actually going to keep that on my palette for sure, because that's a nice transition color. And I'm just gonna like make little piles of them over here on the side. And then when we're done color mixing, we can go to the side. I'll leave a little bit of this to the side to use in the shadow. And then I'm gonna add a bit more yellow to this. At this point, I'm gonna need bit more lemon yellow. Yellow seems to be a color I should really buy a big container of because I tend to use a lot of yellow. The primary colors anyway are good to get bigger containers of, especially white too. I feel like I go through a lot of white, like I was showing at the start. Like I'm always using quite a bit of the titanium white, but I just got into using the warm white as well, which is kind of fun to play around with. Okay, let's get a bit of that lemon yellow. There we go. Get a nice variation from that one to this one. Yeah, that's more in line with what we want. I guess I can move a little closer too. Trying to get used to this like new setup in our new place. Everything's in kind of scattered all over the house right now. Trying to get used to where I put everything, and I've pretty much unpacked everything now, so I know where most things are, but I do have some things that I need to organize in the art studio. I'm in the process of editing the condo tour that I talked about the other day on my Instagram, and so you guys will be able to see it at some point when I get the condo tour all edited. But I was like, okay, I gotta set up this live stream, and I was trying to find everything and then get everything situated for today before I got distracted editing. So now we are going to work on this shadow color here. Now for the shadow color, you're gonna wanna go with the complementary color that I was talking about. So there's going to be more purple in that. And I would say the purple is more on the blue end here. There's a bit of light reflection from the purple background and some of the lighting. You can kind of see some subtle purples in there. You definitely don't want to add too much red, I don't think. Yeah. And then we'll add little bits of yellow, so it kind of blends in there. So we'll grab a little bit of ultramarine blue, and then a little bit of alizarin crimson. And then what I'm going to do with this deeper purple is I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it, and that's going to lighten the color a decent amount. And it's going to give us a really nice shadow color. And I feel like when color mixing, you gotta trust the process because the colors are gonna look all different mixing together. I'm gonna actually mix a bit more of that. So I'm gonna grab some alizarin crimson and some ultramarine blue, a little bit more of that. And we're just taking this like yellow coloring mixed over there. Probably like the darkest part of the shadow. Let me see. It's actually pretty good. We'll go with that. That's not the darkest part. The darkest part is more of that purple color, so we'll definitely mix purple next. And then there's like subtle, slightly lighter ones, but we're just trying to get some basic transitions, and then if we want, we can kind of take a little bit of this and this as we're painting and mix them a little bit together to get a better transition there. With oils, you can definitely blend it really easily. And then on top of that, like I said, we're going to go with the ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson in the shadow area. Gonna mix a really nice deep purple That'll be a really nice shadow color. There we go. And then we've got a lot of these colors here. I think a lot of this will be there. And then we've got to get some lighter colors. So I'm going to create a highlight color here with white. So let me just put that there, and then we'll make like one highlight color. Now to do that, I'm going to have to clean this off. You want to kind of clean off the colors in between, because we definitely don't want that in our main color. There we go. And so I'm gonna start out with, it's definitely more on the blue end. Let me grab my arrow. This is kind of the highlight I'm talking about. It's got more of like a blue tint to it. So we actually want to go with the titanium white as our base starting color. And if you take titanium white, it's going to be way too bright, and we're going to have to lower that brightness. We're going to do that by adding a little bit of that yellow that we kind of left to the side there. I'm going to check, but I think we're going to need to make it a little bit more kind of green. So I'm going to take a little bit of the cerulean blue, like the smallest amount of cerulean blue, because it is so pigmented. You really don't want to use a lot of that. And that's going to kind of almost make the highlight like this greenish color. And let's see how that mixes up. That's a little bit closer. We actually could go a little bit more blue with this. That highlight has a bit more blue in it. Okay, let's see how that works. Yeah, that's pretty accurate to that one. And then I noticed that the highlight kind of over on, so there is this highlight that we're doing right now, and then this highlight over here is actually a little brighter. So we kind of made this like a greenish blue highlight here, but we're also going to add a slightly brighter highlight on top of it as well. So I'm gonna take this, make sure we clean this off so we don't get any in our highlights. Make sure you clean your palette off in between the highlights. And then I just want to see how close this is over here. It's definitely more blue, that one, and it doesn't have any yellow in it. So we're going to take a little bit of that cerulean blue. We're going to add that to the highlight color just to get that nice bright blue. There's definitely like a blue light reflecting off of it. And that's the nice thing when you take your own photos. When you're taking the photo, just kind of like look around and see what types of lights are around. So I had more of like a blue light shining on this, but there is more yellow color temperature lights. And that's like the kelvins of the light. And you kind of want to take a look around at the different lights reflecting on your object as you're taking photos. And just kind of see, and that'll give you a better idea of what colors you'll have to use in certain highlights or in like the shadow colors. Like the shadows are definitely more purpley in this because I did use a blue light. And that's why we had to have a little bit more blue in here. Okay, so this is a more blue highlight. Yeah, that's pretty close now to some of these. I noticed that the highlights along the edges here and up here as well are more blue, and then over here it's a little bit lighter, so there must have been a slightly different light reflecting on that. That looks more like daylight kind of over here, and this is more of the box light that I used. And then we've got this color in here. You can kind of see there's a highlight in here as well on the container because it's like a tin container. And that highlight is this more bluish one as well. And I'll try to put that there. Hopefully that's not out of frame too much because I zoom into the palette while we're painting. Trying to keep it in line. Okay. And then we've got the next thing we will do is we will use I'm probably gonna make the eyes that like purplish color, and then we've got the lighter parts in there, and then the background color. What do I want to do for the background color? So we've got that pinkish color. Maybe we'll do some quinacridone there. Let's get some quinacridone out here. Let's see. Yeah, I think quinacridone is going to be a nice one. Quinacridone magenta specifically. And that'll be kind of this pinkish color here. Really good starting place. It's a bit dark, so I do think I want to lighten it into the corner a little bit. So we're going to do kind of like a fade from here all the way into this purple here. And to mix the purple, we're going to take the quinacridone magenta and mix it with probably a little bit of the ultramarine blue. Let's see how that looks. I haven't decided yet. I think the ultramarine blue is going to be the nicest combination of that. So let's get the lighter side. We'll grab a little bit of the white there, the titanium white specifically. I don't want to add too much white because then we end up with kind of more pastel colors. They almost get kind of like chalky if you add too much white to them. So I don't want to go too crazy with the white. So I probably like went a little too white there, yeah. I don't want it that light. Just a little bit of white can really change a color a lot. That's why when you're oil painting, it is suggested that you go from the darkest values to the lightest values. So you want to kind of save your highlights for the very end, because a highlight can really change the colors below it, especially if they're mixing together as you're painting. So ideally you want to do that. I mean, sometimes I go all over the place, but oh my goodness. Gotta get used to all the talking on stream. Okay. That looks like a really nice color. Oh, that's so pretty. I feel like the color at the top too, you could almost add a little bit of yellow to it and kind of like transition from like a yellow, like an orangish pink to a purple. Maybe I'm going a little crazy there, but maybe we'll transition in there. I just think a little bit of yellow would look really nice in there. Let me try a little, just experimenting at this point. Because I feel like the orange look really nice. And that's gonna lighten the value a little bit by adding yellow because it's on the lighter end. So it'll kind of give us the the lighter section anyway that we wanted. Look at that, look how pretty that is. Yeah, that is so pretty. We're definitely gonna use that. Okay. And then we'll transition from that color to this color. So we'll put this first. I'm gonna just make little piles here on the edge. Let me make sure that's in frame too. This is the next scene. There's my little sketch. See, I knew that this color would be out a little bit. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take, I can take the camera and I can move it. Move it down a little bit, there we go. And then it's all in there. Just want to make sure you guys can see it in my next paint scene there. Okay. And then we will transition to this color, like I said. So we'll go from this color to this pinkish color. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the quinacridone magenta. And then we'll go from this color to the purple. So we're gonna take the quinacridone magenta, and to make purple, you wanna mix red and blue. And so the quinacridone magenta is acting like our red in this case. So I'm making a nice deep color. Now this is going to be great for those darker areas. I was going to make the shadow last. I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of this that had a little white in it anyway. I'm going to lighten that up. Oh, that's so pretty. That's such a pretty color. Okay, that's a great transition color here. So it's gonna be this color to this color to this color, and now we're gonna go a little bit into that blue a little bit more. Quinacridone magenta, add a bit more of that back in. I want to add a bit more of the quinacridone. Oops, I got some white on there. Is that kind of the darker one? I feel like I need a little bit more of the blue, but I keep adding blue, and it's going to turn into like a dark blue. Let me see. This one, I'm just comparing it. This is more of like a bluish tone. Yeah, I think that's nice. And then from there, we're gonna make a shadow color. The shadow color, honestly, we could probably use this really dark purple that we have here because it'll blend in really well. I think that's probably gonna be our way to go there. Is we'll just use this again, and we'll keep the color palette pretty simple. We didn't have to mix up too many colors for this, which is kind of nice. Yeah. And then we can get straight into painting now. I'm just gonna clean. I'll save this over here. Save this over here in case we need it later. But I'm just gonna clean this off. A little bit there. And if we need to mix more colors, we can, but that should honestly take us through the whole painting. And now I like to use, this is just like an old rag that I cut up, so that's what that is. And I've got my palette knife, I'm gonna put that there. And I'm gonna switch the scene over to the painting scene. And then you can see my little palette here, that's why I moved it a bit. And then you'll be able to see my face more, because I kind of have it facing more this way right now. Let me make sure that everything is working here. Go. Okay. And then I've also got, as you can see, my massive amount of cameras set up here. I always like to film like time lapses, so I have my time lapse camera set up here. And then I can just press record, and then it'll film a time lapse while we're painting. And then I like to make shorts for you guys. Just got like all the cameras. It's so funny, like when I look around and look at all the cameras that are set up. Hello, Kit Kat. Got like a cat over here. We got her like a little window bed so she can hang out with me. Hello, Kit Kat. Oh, you're so cute. You see that? She's like hanging out with me out here. You guys going to the gym or? You guys aren't here. Okay. You're invisible. So, probably gotta warm this up a little bit. I've got a kneaded eraser because we're gonna erase a little bit of the sketch. If you haven't got a sketch done, you can just quickly get a little basic sketch done. I don't normally put a ton of details in my sketch. I kind of do that more with the paints. So you've just got kind of a really basic little, this is the shape of it, this is where the shadows are, and then these are kind of where the highlights are. And then I'm going to take my kneaded eraser that I have here, and I just dab off a little bit of the graphite, because the graphite will get into the paint, especially yellow paint. I find it's the worst for mixing with the graphite. So you just want to make sure that it is taken off so you don't get the little bits of it in there. And okay, so this is my little kneaded eraser. Trying a new camera setup today too, so you guys will have to let me know if the cameras are okay, like on the main paint scene and stuff. Using an old phone for the main paint scene, so I hope the old phone works okay. Hopefully it's not too blurry, because my old camera was giving us so many issues with the colors and being a little bit different, which I guess isn't like a huge deal. I think everyone knows that that it looks a little different. Yeah, it looks okay. That's good. Okay. Yeah, I can always watch it back later too, just to see how I like it. That's what I figured. I'm like, I got it as much as I could, and then I can always watch it back later. There we go. Kind of put this on a little bit. There we go. Okay, and now we get to pick our first paintbrush that we're gonna use. Zoomed in right, so it's a bit of that zoomed in look. Yeah, exactly. It's zoomed in a little bit here. I mean, I just erased the sketch a bit, so it's like a very faded amount, but it should be okay. God, it's this old phone here. It's like my S20, so I think the S20 should be okay. I'm thinking I will use, so you kind of want to start out with bigger brushes normally first. So I'm going to start out with this number 6 flat shading brush. This is the Princeton Velvet Touch series. I like their brushes. I also really like, I just started using these ones last time. These ones, the Seneca flat brushes, and they have such a nice little flat tip on them. I like the bristles are a little bit more firm too. And then these ones are a little softer, so they're, I guess, better for blending. Maybe we'll use the Seneca ones. I changed my mind. Okay, so we'll go in. I like to start in the middle, just personal preference. You can start anywhere you want, but I like to start with the most saturated colors in the middle on the actual object. I like to do the background last, just so the background colors don't blend in with the middle, or you don't get like your hand. I always like get my hand in stuff. I mean, it's not as big of a deal with a small one because you don't really put your hand on the paper that much, but we're going to use this brighter color first. I'm going to go in with this nice yellow that we created, so the third color down here. I'm going to take that and we're going to work kind of in this middle area. Now, another tip that a lot of artists do is they actually tone their paper beforehand too with a little bit of color. Some artists like to work on more toned paper, which is super helpful if you are beginning out and learning how to mix colors, because sometimes like this yellow might seem a little weird at first just on a white background, but since we're painting a background on it anyway, then it'll slowly look different as we get more pigment on here. And I'm also using oil painting paper. I find it absorbs the color quite nicely, and I don't have to really use other. Bye, have fun, guys. My husband and son are going to the gym this morning while I paint. This is going to be a normal Sunday thing. Love you guys. It's going to be their thing on Sundays, is they're going to go get breakfast together and then go to the play gym. There's like a gym session for them, so they can go there and play, hang out. I think there's bouncy castles today there too, right? There's bouncy castles there.
Yeah.
Bouncy castles. Are you guys going to get breakfast too, like you said? And I've been so excited to paint this for so long, guys. Been looking forward to this since I got the little container. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm definitely gonna paint this at some point. It's gonna be in my work. Okay, I'm just getting these yellows. Not going to go too much to the edge here because I do want to add the. I'll leave a little room for the highlight as well around here because I find it's a little bit brighter if I don't cover it up with the yellow, and I don't have to put it on as thickly. Okay, and then oh, the cats are like meowing at the door, or at least Mona's meowing at the door. She's like, you left me. Meow. Oh, Mona, it's okay. Dad'll be back. And then such a nice yellow. That is such a nice yellow. And then we also have the yellow that is around this little top area, so I'm going to put that in as well. I'm trying not to put too much on my brush. It's a small painting, so I don't want to go too crazy with the paint, unless you're going for that look. Depends on what kind of look you're going for as far as paint wise. I like to keep a lot of my paintings a bit more flat as far as paint goes and not use a lot. I'm using oil paint, so they take a little bit longer to dry if you put them on really thick. And see what I mean about the pencil underneath? If you don't erase it enough, those are going to be darker areas anyway, but you can see it there, so that's a good kind of stopping point in those areas as far as color goes. And then this color, there's also a little bit of it, a little star down there. We've got a little stars. I gotta do a little star color. I figured it'd be cute to kind of have the container open and then be able to paint a little mini star too that's sitting here. It's just like an extra thing, because I thought about just doing the container, but I think it looks cooler with the little candy in there. And then we've got like the little stars inside of the actual container, which is kind of fun to paint. My husband calls me his starshine, so anything with stars involved, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely need to paint that. It's his little nickname for me. I call him my little yam. Oh my gosh. And then the stars here. Perfect. And then these stars are a little darker in here, so I don't want to really paint the edges too much. Like this one kind of on the edge. I'm not going to do as much detail on the stars in there. I'm going to have the main focus on the bigger one. I'm going to make the stars inside of the actual thing a little bit more blurry. I realize we're painting yellow today, and then I'm also a giant Pikachu, which is yellow. Kind of goes with it. Now we're going to take this slightly darker yellow, and I'm going to clean off my brush a little. Now to clean off my brush, I just normally have a little bit of linseed oil there. I can put it a little closer so you can see when I dip in it. And then I'm just gonna clean off my brush a little bit. We're going into another yellow though, so I don't want to clean it off too much. We're gonna go into the slightly darker color. There is a little hair on it, a little fuzzy. Oh, I'm going into the wrong color. Okay. Slightly darker, not too different. We're going to do that around the edge there. And you can see it's just slightly different. It'll add a nice transition between that other darker pigment that we made down here. And then there's a little bit more of that darker pigment around here as well. And then I'm gonna have a bit of that darker pigment up here as well. And it's these subtle color changes that really make a huge difference in the final painting as well. So try not to skip these subtle color changes when you're mixing colors, because they really do add quite a bit to the painting. Especially if you're looking for more realism in your painting. Like I was saying, you don't want to just paint the star yellow, one type of yellow. You want to look less at the local color, so the color that it is, and more at the perceived colors. So going for the slightly different, I'm going to take this color, take it down here, and add a little bit of this yellow to it, and we'll make kind of a slight transition. To that darker color. I feel like we need like a slight more transition there. And then we're gonna go right here. That darker color in this area too. And then we have a little bit over here. Not a lot though. That area is definitely brighter. And then we can always blend that out a little bit more. And this one. Probably get some smaller brushes and do some of that area at some point. Now we're going to go into that deeper color here for some of those areas, keeping a little bit of that yellow still on our brush so that we're not going too dark. Slowly transition down to these areas here with some deeper color. And then we'll touch up the edges of the color as well as we go. Like I said, with the bigger brushes first, and then we can go back in and really work on those lighter ones at some point. And there's a lot of cool reflections in this back area here. So I'm actually going to add some of the lighter yellows back into that. To add a little bit of visual interest in there with the lighter colors. We can always add a little bit more of those lighter colors in with our tinier brushes as well. And now this is going to look a little weird without the background yet, because the background is going to change the look of everything quite a bit actually. But this is what we got for now. Okay. And then we've got the kind of darker colors a little bit over here as well, just shaping out the object at this point. Take that deeper color here in the corners, and then we'll fade it into those lighter colors. And I like to slowly start adding kind of more shape and kind of those darker lines to the object as we get more of this color on. A little bit of a shadow here, and then it actually goes into a lighter yellow in that section. There's a bit of a darker color here as well on the corner as it rounds the corner here. And then the lighter color kind of in that section there. Take it, it's not quite the bright white or the bright yellow color, but there we go. And you'll start to see a little bit of that transition now. There we go. And then back to this slightly darker color. I'm going to go on this edge here. Quite a big transition from that edge to this side here, just because it's very dark. And then it even goes into like some of that shadow there, which the actual shadow on the ground we're going to make more of like the purple color. For now, that's what this is. There. There we go. The box is starting to take shape a little bit more now. And then just adding subtle darker colors here and there. And once I use my smaller brush, we'll add even more details in there, but that's pretty good start right there. I notice we need a little bit more of this darker color in this section, so I'm going to add that in there. And then over here we need a bit more of that darker green as well. It's pretty much a dark green. There we go. And then, thank you. Yeah, we are we're getting there. It's slowly coming along there. I'm gonna clean off my brush now because I want to get into. Oh, I realized we could do the stars too. Well, my brush is a little bit dirty still. And take more of this yellow here and go in here. Yeah, it's good thing to do is just step back from your painting a little bit too and take a look at it as you're going, and that'll give you more of an idea if your values are right and how it's looking as far as shape goes. Sometimes when we're close up, we don't always judge the shape very accurately. You gotta step back a little bit to really get a full picture of everything that's going on. I'm just getting these darker stars in here. A little bit more of the yellow to it. And the stars that are in the shadow color. Like I said, I'm just going to kind of make them a little bit blurry, so you don't have to worry too much about shape in there. You also could worry about it and have very detailed stars in there if you'd like. But I'm working on a very small scale right now, so when you're working really small, I don't always worry about, you kind of have to pick and choose the details when you're working small. Pick and choose what works out for you. Go. Just adding like little shadows to the stars a bit. I'm going to go into the brighter yellow there as well. Into this one here. And then I noticed there's some reflection on the box here. So I'm going to add a little bit of that color there. Try to keep in with the star shapes that are there. And then now there is some other subtle colors in the box area, but I'm gonna kind of skip those for now. I think we'll just keep with the palette we already have. As you take a closer look, sometimes you notice more colors. I'm just gonna kind of dab some of these colors on. I'm gonna use a smaller brush, I think, to spread them around. The colors are right on the corners of those stars, so don't want to go too much there. Okay, I'm gonna grab a smaller brush so we can start getting a little bit more detail in some of those areas. So I think I'll go with what do I want to do? We have some really small brushes. I don't think I need a liner brush yet. 10/0 liner brush. Wouldn't be too small. I also have these like really small ones here. They're really hard to see on camera probably because they're so tiny. This one's like kind of like a little blendy brush that's small, and this one's like a liner brush. I think I could probably use the liner brush to start adding some of the details to the star. So we could do that. I still kind of want to use, I might just use the angled brush. So the 1/8, so it is smaller than the other one. It's an angle shader by Seneca or Seneca. I figure out how to pronounce that. And then I am going to slowly, just with the paint that we already have on there. And grab a little bit of this yellow color. And I'm going to start shaping these stars in the inside a little bit more. With the angle brush. And then we'll probably add a little bit more yellow on top of the stars as well. So I'm going to grab a bit of this bright yellow. And this is when the stars will start taking shape here. Do like the brightest colors. Still trying not to add too many details to these stars though. I want them a little bit more subtle. And this one, I really gotta shape this star. It kind of got a little wonky as I started adding other colors. And then slightly darker one. Also feel free to like listen to music or something. I like to paint in silence when I paint, but feel free to listen to music or do whatever you'd like. I feel like it's normally just like my quiet time to hang out. There we go. I can see the stars a little bit more. I'll add a little bit more detail with these darker colors. I'll grab this darker pigment with the other brush. So now I'm just add both. Oh, I moved my easel a little bit. I gotta lock that in place. Oh, it is a little fuzzy. My husband did say it was a little fuzzy. I feel like the other one had a little bit more, like the other camera I was using had a little bit more detail when zoomed in like this, and this one just like doesn't zoom in very well. Gotta get like a proper mount, I think, for here too, so I can maybe put this at like a different angle. That might help a little bit. Okay, I'm just adding some darker parts to the sides of the star here. And at least they are starting to look more like stars. go. And then I'm gonna make this star a little bit darker in the corner here. My easel again. There, you can see a little bit more shadow there. To lock in my easel. I still haven't locked in my easel since I moved. Okay, we'll just try to be really careful not to move it too much. Oops. Okay, and then we've got this slightly brighter part. I can move my arrow a bit. Don't move my arrow yet. I'm gonna do this part over here with the highlight. Get some of the highlights in that bottom section there. So that highlight is more of the bluish highlight here. So I'm going to grab a bit of that blue highlight. And I'm going to put this along the edge here. I'm going to blend it into this other darker part that I put just down here, not too much. There, that adds a little bit of that bright highlight in there. Add a little bit more of the bright highlight there, just along the edge. And then right here. Into that area. Okay. And then this blue highlight also shows up kind of in this main section here. We're gonna add that in. And then there's also this kind of highlight here. It's gonna look very weird with the white background right now. The colors are gonna be very different, but gotta trust the process. And then some kind of along the edge here. And then we've got the other highlight as well. So I'm going to grab that a little bit. This kind of like more greenish highlight. And this greenish highlight. Just going to go along here. Slightly different color than the other highlight. It'll really make it pop a little bit more. Having those slight variations in highlights. And then just adding some of those highlights throughout. And then I'll probably get the little eyes in. I'm gonna use this darker purple to get the eye color in here. And then there we go. And then the little whites of the eye. I have, I'm gonna use this brush to put it in. So they're more of that like kind of bluish white. Kind of want to add a little bit more of the titanium white to it. And white doesn't spread very well, so sometimes you have to put a little bit of linseed oil in it just to make it spread a little bit better. When you add too much white to a color, it definitely is harder to spread. It's like a thicker. Okay, that tones down the color of the paper a little bit. Covers it up a bit. And the highlight, sorry, goes into the eye a little bit. And so we're just kind of adjusting that as we go. Those eyes look pretty good. I'm going to touch up the edges of them with a little bit more yellow in the main area, so I'm just going to clean this off a bit so I can add some yellow around the edges, and that'll kind of make it so there we go. That looks pretty cute. Okay. And then I also realized we have these edges along like this area that we need to do, kind of along here. So I'm going to work on getting those edges in next, and they're kind of that bluish color. Mix a little bit of linseed oil in that bluish white color. That should help it spread a little bit better. And then this one's a liner brush. It's like the smallest liner brush I have. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. We are slowly getting this star painted out today. Adding in some of the highlights now, and then we get to do the fun background. I love when the background comes in because then all of the colors really pop. It's like a trust the process kind of moment, you know? And I do want to add some, I think, darker colors in beside this brighter color because that'll really make it pop a little bit more. And when we add the background as well, we're going to touch this up a bit. I like to add the details and the little subtle things a bit more after we get the background in. So after the background goes in, we come back and we add a little bit extra. And I hope everyone is enjoying their weekend. I had a pretty chill weekend over here, actually. We just kind of hung out this weekend, relaxed a bit. I got the stream ready. Kind of like how I'm hosting these live streams on the weekends now. Because I like painting and I wanted to add a little bit of that. It's nice to be in our new place now that I can actually get back to painting. I took like quite a few months break because we were selling our house and didn't realize how chaotic it would be to sell a house. Never sold a house before, so it was our first home and we sold our house and I am glad that process is over. Oh my goodness, that was quite the process. Yeah, it was a lot to sell our house, and I'm grateful that we got it done in actually a pretty short amount of time. Our house was only on the market for like a month, and then we were able to move pretty quickly after, so bought like a brand new condo too, so it's nice to like come in here and like everything's like move-in ready and ready to go. Didn't really have to do any sort of like renos moving in, so I'm grateful about that. Gonna add a little bit more linseed oil to that. Okay, there we go. Gonna add a little bit to these highlights just to brighten them up a little bit. Just a little thicker paint on it. It'll brighten it up a bit, show less of the color underneath. And then I'll probably add a bit more at the end too. I don't want to add too much white because sometimes you go a little overboard with the, and by white I mean this kind of greenish highlight. Never want to make your highlights like super bright white, unless that's the vibe you're going for, then you can do that. But I like to stick more to those perceived colors I see in the object, and it'll give it a little bit more realism if you stick with less harsh colors. Okay, that's a good start, and then we will come back and add a little bit more detail once we get the background in. I feel like it's important for us to really get that background in before we go a little overboard with all of the highlights and stuff. Just gonna add a little bit of highlight to the star down there. Yeah, so we'll come back, touch it up after we get that background in. So the background, I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush. So this one is a number 2 Seneca brush. It's one of their flat brushes. And I'm going to start out, I think, with the pink color and then move our way into the purple. So we'll start out with the little bit on the edge there. Start directly on this edge. We'll work our way down into the other color. So that's a pretty good start for that color there. There's less pink in it, more of that purple color. Got a nice transition color so far. I think we picked a pretty nice color. And this color kind of goes down to this area, and then it starts going into that purple. I have to just make sure we're careful around the edges there. Start to get a bit more of that purple in there on the edge. Along the edge here. Go along this edge. Slowly getting this other purple in there, closer to the edge. I need to make sure I leave room for a shadow color around here. Trying to lay the color down slowly I don't blend it too much. This is like a nice dark background. Don't normally do like a ton of deeper backgrounds, so into that, we're just slowly getting darker and darker as we fade into the other sections. This background is actually just like one of my journals that I have. It's such a cute color fade on the back, and I was like, oh, that'd be perfect for the star one, because I was looking for like a purple background for the star, because nice complementary color is purple. And so I ended up going with this. Might have to use this background in other things because I like it. I like the deeper purple. It like looks kind of magical. I feel like anything like purple kind of gives like that magic-y, mystical color. I noticed that some of this has a bit more like white in it too, so I might grab a little bit of the white here. I'm kind of grabbing a little bit of this highlight color at the top and just mixing it a bit, because the highlight is coming from this side of the object, so we could add a little bit of that lighter color into this side, and I think it would show that the light's coming from that direction. Just a little bit. Have a little variation in color, right? Because if we did the background all kind of one solid color, we'd miss the opportunity to play around with some different light concepts and stuff in the background. When I took the photo, the light was kind of coming from this area, so we will make those sides a little bit lighter. And I think it'll add quite a bit to it. Add a little bit of linseed oil since we're adding all this white. Not too much, that was quite a bit, so I'm gonna tone that down a little bit. But that'll help it spread a little bit better. I'm gonna go back in with the shadow color too at the end. After we get kind of the main part of the background, we'll go in with the shadow color. Get it in there. Might even lighten some of this up after I clean my brush off kind of near the end. Go back into that pink and lighten that up a little bit too. I shouldn't call it pink, I should call it magenta. And then I've got this more bluish purple here. I'm gonna grab that. And we'll do the darker kind of on this side, and then we'll go into like the lighter color on the other side. Leave some room for the shadow there. Not too much shadow on this side. Kind of angles over a little bit and fades out here. That'll be a little bit darker. Starting to take shape there. Grab this kind of bluish purple again. Probably add some lighter whites to it just to add a little bit of variation. And then this, we've got to leave some room for a shadow here as well. Okay. We take a bit of that white highlight color and we add our other purple into it. Slowly start getting just adds a little bit more. Grab some titanium white. Grab a little bit of the linseed oil. There we go. You can kind of tell the difference in between those two now. This one has more of that blue to it, and that has more of the quinacridone magenta. A little bit more white. Make this corner quite white compared to the other part. Blend those colors together. And if I blend it on the paper a little bit, then we'll get a bit of kind of like interesting color mixing. Normally I don't like to blend a ton on the paper, but I think it'll add a little bit more visual interest to have the slight variations in color there. Add a little bit to this back section of it too. I want to keep the back section more dark though, so I'm going to stay with the solid color for the most part, kind of near the back there. And then this, we're going to leave room for the shadow again. I'm going to add this around the star, really give it that shape. And Could take a smaller brush at some point too. It's going to be a lot of shadow in there. There's also going to be a slightly darker shadow here. Figure out where that shadow is. We can always come back in with a slightly lighter color too afterwards. Glad we added the lighter colors into there because it looks really good having the variations there in the background. Just gonna try to get this as close as I can to the star. I don't know how we have to touch up that yellow a little bit along the edge, but did pretty good with trying to get the shape of that a little bit more. I realize it curves in here. I want to make these edges a little bit more rounded too. Star edges, they're not as sharp. Don't want super sharp edges on that star. There we go. And then we can add the little shadow colors as well. Just get this color in here a bit more. And we'll probably use one of the liner brushes as like our way to get the shadows on. The liner brush will work really good because they are kind of smaller in this section specifically. It'd be easier to do it with the liner brush now. And I'm going to use the 10/0 Velvet Touch Princeton liner brush. That one's my favorite. And this is the shadow color we're using, which is a mix of the alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. I'm going to add a little bit of linseed oil to it, just to make it a little easier to spread. Kind of rounding out the edges on the star because it definitely needs a little bit more rounding on the edges. Right now we're adding the shadow in, but we'll kind of blend it out a little bit more. And then there's also a bit of a shadow color here on the edge. Gotta shape the star into it as I'm adding the background. The star will kind of lose shape if you go into certain sections. Adding a little bit of the background color to the actual star too, just so it's not as bright. Add a bit more of that yellow, kind of made the star a little wonky, but it is candy, so it doesn't have to be perfect, the shape, thankfully. Add a little bit more shape to the star by adding some of those colors back in to the main part of the star. Kind of like we did on the bigger star. Just hadn't done it on the smaller one yet. It's kind of like pushing and pulling colors until we get it to the shape that we want. There we go. Now I need to add grabbed a little bit of just the plain lemon yellow. Add some of that here to just brighten a few of these colors up again because we kind of mixed it in a little bit much. Add some texture with it. You can also come back to your painting like after it's dry and add a little bit more details too. We can only do so much details on that like first layer, but I kind of just normally, oh no, getting stuff all over my fingers. 1 second. I have some towels over here. And then I've got to grab the, I can actually use the bigger brush for this bigger one for the shadows over here. Come in with the smaller brush after. Get then we'll go back in with that darker color again on the edge. There's a little bit of a shadow here just because it's there. Come in with that smaller brush around that area as well. shadow. There's definitely a deeper shadow as we round the corner here. That's like the darkest shadow because it's the furthest away from the light. Go into this slightly darker part here. And actually bring some of that pink back in because I don't want to bring the highlight up that much. This pinkish color. Just grabbing my other brush and reshaping that a little bit. There we go. That's where the shadow is. That's nice purple in those darker areas. I also was wondering if you guys might want some videos on my channel that are more directed towards color mixing, because I think that's where a lot of people kind of like want to start out when it comes to painting, is understanding like color theory and how to mix colors and how to pick out colors in like the images that you take. And so I was thinking of making maybe some like videos, I don't know if like a whole series or whatever, but just maybe a few videos on like specific color mixing that might help a little bit. And so we'll probably do that. It's nice to see a few of you guys in chat today. Just getting back to it, so I know everyone's schedule is different and a lot of you guys are going to be watching on replay. But it's nice when you guys can actually like come in and join me, even if it's just for a few minutes to say hi. I like that. I feel like that's my favorite part about, I think that's what's kept me going on here for so long, because I just love connecting with everyone in the community and meeting other artists. I feel like I've met so many like great artists on like Instagram specifically. I feel like a lot of the artists hang out on Instagram, and it's really nice to connect with everyone, and the community there is just so nice. I'm gonna add a little bit of that darker color now into the actual painting. I'm gonna use the smaller one. I really should use the smaller one. I mean, we're coming along at this point. Like, it's definitely looking more like what we want it to. I'm gonna add a little bit of linseed oil to that, just so it glides a little bit better. I don't want to add too much linseed oil because then the paint won't go on into the areas you potentially want. Not very easily, anyway. A little bit of that darker color to that edge there, because there's a bit of a rim on the container there, and it's got a pretty dark edge because there's quite a deep shadow in that section. So I'm trying to define that a little bit by adding that deeper color in there. And that really does help define that like little area. It's like the very subtle things that make a big difference kind of at the end of the painting when you add a few things in. I cover that. I've got my white one here. Okay. And then get some of those darker areas again. So we have a shadow here, which is quite dark in color. We'll get there. This one's pretty dark too, I would say. Over here. I'm blending it out a little so it's not too dark. I'm also going to add some slight dark color there. Yeah, because that helps to kind of define that area a little bit more. And then I'm also going to add some deeper colors in here. Now that we have the smaller brush, it'll be a little bit easier to like add some more details into this area. They're kind of looking a little mashed together at this point right now. But once you add those shadows and get those deeper colors in there, then it'll all kind of look less mashed together. It's the best way I can describe it. Kind of that in there as well. And then also got those deeper colors in this section here. Slowly add in those colors. I'm just looking at it. Is a little bit blurry. It is a little blurry, but get the gist of it. I will post a photo of this on the community tab on YouTube, and I normally post a reel and stuff of me creating this afterwards if you want a better look of what the colors actually look like and have it a little less blurry. Maybe see if for next month I can get my cameras adjusted a little bit more. We're working on it. Okay. I definitely think the colors are better on this camera, but I do think the camera needs to be maybe closer while we're in the middle of the live stream, because I think it'll make it stand out a little bit more if we have the color of the camera a little bit closer. Slowly trying to get like adjusted to the sounds in our new house, or in our new place too. We lived in a house before, and so the sounds were very different than living like a condo, because like you can hear like your neighbors and stuff a little bit more. Walls are honestly pretty soundproof, but like you definitely can hear a little bit more when you're in a condo. You can hear like little footsteps the odd time, or like people talking in the hallway, and it's like makes me jump sometimes because I'm not used to it. I lived in a house for like 10 years, but honestly, like that'll fade at some point. I'll get used to it. Okay. I mean, it's looking pretty good. We don't go too crazy today. How long have we been on today? What is the time? 2 hours? Not bad, not bad. I try not to make these more than 3 hours. I don't think we're gonna need 3 hours today. We're like pretty much at the end, and then you can always add some more details and stuff on your own. I'll maybe step back after the stream and add a few more details myself at some point. I try not to though, because I like to just do it all on stream if I can, so you guys can see the extra details or whatever I add. I also don't try to make my work like super hyper realistic either. I'd say they're definitely like on the end of realism, but I feel like if I go too crazy with the details, I can kind of miss the whole point of why I paint, which is to have fun and just enjoy myself. So I think it's nice to find a happy medium of like for yourself and what is like enough for you and what your style is. So I definitely gravitate more on like the painterly realism, I guess. Still like to be able to see the paint strokes and the fact that it's like a painting, if that makes sense. Oh, that looks so cute. And I kind of like how the background that we made is like a little foggy, you know? Not quite. It'd be hard to see that on camera, but like the subtle differences in, like it's kind of like a little bit foggy in the background because we added like the little white parts to it. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this kind of greenish color, add a little bit of that darker color to the edge here. Just kind of deepen that up and add a bit more of a shadow. You can kind of see on that edge, there's a little bit more shadow going on, just right there as the color transition from this really darker area to the lighter area. So I'm just adding those deeper shadows. Also, of course, I got paint on myself. I'll have to wash that off after the stream. With oil paint, if you wash it off with a little bit of soap and water right after, it won't cause any issues. fix this like little star down here. A little bit more dimension in the star. Add a little bit there. I'm gonna also add a little bit more of that like lighter color into the purpley areas. I realize I want to add a little bit more white to it. There we go. Just to define the shadows a little bit more, because I feel like some of the shadows are getting lost in that darker color. Adding that slight variation. Gotta add a bit more of that pink back in. I used this one there for a sec. That top area, I kind of put a little too much of the other color. Pink. And that darker color. Yeah, that's pretty good with the shadow now. And there we go. That's more of a shadow. I realized that the eyes need maybe a little bit more that darker color in there. Just to like really deepen that one section. I feel like I had a little too much white in that one section, so I want to go back in and just darken that a bit. And if I find that I'm not able to darken it, like I said, I can always add it once it's dry too. Like this side needs a little bit. There we go. And then notice that there's a little bit more variation in color here. Just gonna play with this a little bit more around the edges. Sharpen up some of those a little bit. There we go. Kind of just like touching up the edges so they kind of stand out a little bit more. Specifically around the edge of the box here, I feel like it wasn't standing out as much. Just by adding like the smallest little bit of this darker color, it really is brightening it up quite a bit. It needs on the outside here a little bit. There we go. And there, just adding those subtle little colors in there. And then as far as, still want to add a slight bit of color in here. And then I'm going to go to that slightly darker color. To add more of a shadow in here. I don't need to, but I want to. Okay. This is just lemon yellow straight from the tube there. And I'm going to add that to the edges of the star here. There. Slight bit more. I want to add a bit more of this lemon yellow as well into some of these stars in the highlight sections. I don't want the focus, like I said, to be too much on the little star candies, but I do want them to have a little bit more dimension. By adding a little bit more of that brighter color, it'll help. I noticed this one still has yeah, we kind of like almost like made a shadow across it, so like half of it is darker and half of it's lighter. Trying to do that just to add a little bit more color there. I really love playing with lights and shadows. One of my favorite ones was like the candy hearts I did for Valentine's Day. You can really play with all the shadows and colors in those candy hearts. So if you get your hands on any candy hearts during Valentine's Day, you can practice some of that shadow and light stuff that I was talking about. Go. Slightly darker color. That shadow's pretty good. I feel like I need to touch up this shadow a little bit more. It's a little bit darker in this back section. There we go. And then I'm just gonna like step back a little bit. I could darken up this area a little bit more with my finer brush. There, that adds a little bit more. Just subtle things. Go back into that yellow there. It's almost like little reflections in some of these. I'm like, kind of want to add a little bit more of that yellow back into those areas. Just show that there's like reflection. And then I think I want to make this a little brighter. No, it's pretty good. Yeah. Notice that there's a bit of highlight in that area, so I might take some yellow and just drag it along these areas just a little bit. A little bit more of that highlight color. Bit of that yellow. Very minor details at this point, but there we go. I don't know, what do we think of that so far? Yeah. This part could be a little darker here. Yeah, I could probably add a little bit more darkness to that section. Just to like make that pop a little bit more. There's a little bit of a darker. Slightly darker. Just trying to make this like slightly darker because it's like the edge of the grab this here. There we go. What do we think of that? That's looking pretty good. I can post a photo after. It'll be less blurry, like I said, so then you guys can see it a bit more. And get That's good for a final brush stroke. I think that looks pretty good. Oh, he's so cute. This is the little star here. Got the little star. He's like a little mini version. Now I have him on my wall forever. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, I can stop the time lapse now. Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad you guys like it. And make sure if you try this out, yeah, tuning in for a little bit right at the end. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial today. If you're just tuning in now, I host these live streams every month, the second Sunday at 8 a.m. PST of every month, and I go through my painting process. I will have these up on the channel, so you can always go back and watch them and just comment if you have questions, and we'll do it that way. But I'm glad that we're back at it again this year. It's so fun to host these live streams, and it's a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to be back at it. Okay, final thank you scene. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if you would like to see more of my artwork, you can check out Instagram and Facebook. I post on there quite frequently, like on my stories and stuff, and you can see what I'm up to. If you do try this out, make sure you tag me on Instagram, Facebook, any social platform. I'm at Josol Art, and you can use the hashtag mini paint challenge specifically on Instagram and Facebook. I check the most, so you can use the hashtag there, and then I can show your art some love, because I love to see your guys' creations. I like posting them on my stories every time you guys do one of them. And yeah, if you need the reference photo, make sure you grab it on my website. You can grab the there's a link in my YouTube bio for the mini paint challenge, and if you click on there, there's a little button that says reference photos, and it'll drag you down to the bottom of the website, and then you can download them, and then you can blow it up big on your screen, and it's a little easier to see. But yeah, you guys are welcome to try these out and tag me in them and let me know how you like the tutorials. So I will see you next month for another live stream, but I'm working on editing a video now, so I'm gonna try to get that out this weekend so you guys can see the new condo tour since we just moved in. But I hope you all have a good rest of your day, weekend, start of your week, and I